Okay, testing new camera. Yeah, I'll do a response video real quick to, yeah, it's both Joe and there's this jackass who keeps posting comments, this unhappy test tube baby, and he really pisses me off. But anyway, he says, let's not confuse fractional reserve banking issue. Say you want to buy a property but need to borrow $90,000. Should the bank need to have $90,000 or just $10,000 in assets before they can lend you the money? That's all we're talking about. No, it isn't all we're talking about. What's the definition of an asset? I mean, every one of these loans is accomplished because the bank gives out some money and they get a deed in return. You know, a piece of paper that says, I owe you. And not even that. They get an IOU piece of paper, but they get a deed. They get a house. They get a property. So every single loan is collateralized. Right? So there's no such thing as this, let's just print money and loan it to people. Okay? They're collateralized loans. And the question is what is an asset? Is an asset, I mean, obviously the bank can't buy another house with a deed. So I mean, it has a deed, and you can't just give a deed to another guy and say, here, give me your house, I'll exchange deeds with you. No, it has to convert into cash. Right? And that's all it does. That's all fractional reserve banking means, is they convert deeds into cash through the Federal Reserve. All right, big frickin' deal. I mean, this is just such nonsense. I mean, obviously, it was one banker who made a decision to loan somebody some money, and the house, you know, went to hell, lost half its value. You wouldn't sit there and crucify the guy and say, oh, what a horrible banker he is, what a crook he is. No, you just say, bad timing, fella. You should have saw that coming. And so, yeah, it's wrong for them not to have like an insurance company or anything else. They instead of making obscene salaries and taking huge profits, they should have built up their capital reserves, their money reserves, instead of just having a bunch of deeded property and money they borrowed from the Federal Reserve, which they had to pay back. Because all they really do is they convert deeds through the Federal Reserve Bank, the central bank, back into cash again, so they can relend the money. But that's all they're really doing here. All right, it's not that evil, and it wouldn't be evil at all if the economy wasn't crashing, and the mortgage crash, or the housing bubble, is just the first bubble to break, and the rest of them will break soon, and you know, and the whole economy will be seen what it is that it's all an asset economy. But these are assets. These are collateralized loans. So this is just bullshit to phrase it like that, because you make it sound like the only thing they're getting is an IOU from somebody saying, I owe you the money, and they're just giving out the money that was printed. And that's really not what's happening. Okay, the money is backed by an asset, a deed. So it's just bullshit. And so saying most banking systems are on a 9-to-1 ratio, so they only need to have $10,000 in real assets. Now, what does that mean, real assets? No, they don't have to have just $10,000 in real assets. They have the assets. They have the properties. Now, if the properties lose half their value, I mean, yeah, okay, the economy's bubbled, it blew up, but, you know, a year ago they had the assets. I mean, it wasn't like the assets disappeared for some internal reason. It disappeared because of an external reason. So it's just bullshit. So they weren't lending money without getting anything in return. I mean, they were getting the house, the deed to the house, plus they were holding the down payment, because essentially the deed to the house had the down payment built into it. So I mean, it was a pretty secure loans. So this is just bullshit argumentation. It's just crap. All right, so now back to Joe. I mean, Joe has this idea that, you know, when the Federal Reserve prints money to give to the banks to lend, and they take the deeds in, that somehow in this transaction, this money doesn't have to come back. So that, like, when the money supply grows, that somehow it's just all money keeps going out. Like the Fed just keeps throwing the money out, and none of that money has to be backed with anything. No, the Fed's getting something back in return. It's getting an asset. And beyond that, it's lent money. It's borrowed money. Okay, so you can't replace it with a system that prints that equal amount of money. So you can't print $300 billion a year. I mean, maybe the Fed lends $300 billion into the economy, okay, a year. But it also takes back in, okay, $300 billion a year. So you got to understand that there's not more going out than's coming back in. So that's the bogus part of this idea that we could just print the money, that we could just print $300 or $400 or $500 billion a year, and there'd be no problem. There'd be a huge damn problem. I mean, he keeps using the term that it's money is debt, or it's debt currency, or it's created by debt. No, it's created by an asset. The asset exists first. Okay, the debt note merely is the way the person buys the asset back out of the bank. Okay, but the asset goes in, then the money is created, or at the same time. So it's asset created money. The fact that the assets can bubble and burst and turn into crap, okay, that's a liability of the system, and there has to be a defense against that. But to imply that the only thing that exists is the IOU is garbage, because that's not all that's existing. This is not debt currency. It's asset currency. Every single dollar is created by an asset. The original first dollars were created by the assets held by the federal government, the property they owned, like I said before, Yellowstone Park or whatever it would be. That would be the full faith of the government. It had assets that it could give you if you came to them and gave you $1. And then every asset, every dollar that went out since then has been $1 where an asset, where a deed, where something came into them in exchange for it. Okay, it's all borrowed money, but there's a big difference between borrowing that's collateralized and borrowing that isn't collateralized. And the fact that the inflation, like I said, is all built into the fact that everybody has this expectation of interest on their capital or on their assets. They all have the expectation that they buy a house and it increase in value. That was a huge flaw in this fucking system, friggin' system. And if it's a huge flaw in our whole economy now, because there's so many people that have so much asset capital. They own so much, and they're deriving these huge incomes that they have to change. They have to convert this money that can't do anything. This money will not grow. I put this on the table. It will not produce another dollar next year. I have to convert it into an asset that will somehow appreciate in value. All right, this dollar won't do that. Ugh. So anyway, I mean, we really shouldn't have to argue about this crap, but there's a lot of poorly described definitions of what fractional reserve banking is. Okay? I mean, you can't show me any loans that are part of the fractional reserve banking system that weren't fully collateralized. They all were. I mean, there's another part of the banking system that does the uncollateral loan thing, the credit card businesses and all that stuff didn't completely crumble, because all they have to do if they start losing money is increase the interest rates. They can compensate for losses, and just charge per people 30% or 40% or 50% or whatever they have to charge to make up the difference. But that's a whole different part of the banking system. And it's just wrong to imply that the Federal Reserve is just throwing money out and saying, keep it. It's all yours. That's not friggin' happening. They're getting an asset back, and the asset's getting repurchased from them again. All right? In the future, the bank will have to give them back the money. Ugh, damn it. So anyway, yeah, enough of video, testing different camera. See how it works. So, thank you very much.